Easily create a new quotation. You can create an inquiry, and then, once there is enough information to prepare a quotation, submit it to estimating. Or you can start preparing a new quotation straight away. Both methods will require you to set up the basic inquiry details before a quotation may be started. By going to the menu and selecting the function to create a new quotation, the system will automatically present you with the initial inquiry setup screen. If your company has multiple companies that could send out quotations, select the required company that the quotation is to be issued from. With the system having all your company names and details in a linked library, enter who the client is and any relevant classifications that will assist with reporting. The project type, certification type, and classification will help production once the quotation, hopefully, becomes a contract. We enter a project name that will be used to describe the quotation and contract through its progress through the company. When entering the site address, there is no problem if you don't have the full site details yet, so long as you know the town where the site is. We then say how likely we are to win the contract, along with when the contract is due to start and end, should it be won. We can enter when the quotation is required by, and this will assist with scheduling and prioritizing when quotations are to be completed. If we don't know the contract dates, we can indicate this as TBC, or enter the approximate dates, and these may be amended at any time if they should change. Any of this data added may be amended, or added to, at any point during the various stages of the quotation and contract. Once all the information that we have is entered, click the Save and Close button and we will then be able to start preparing a quotation. So now we're ready to start forming the quotation. Before we start building the quote, we have an area where we can add site detail notes or quotation notes that will help with forming the quote and for relaying information to other departments that subsequently look at the quotation. These notes are not seen by the client. We enter the drawing references that the quotation is being prepared from, and these are seen by the client, and these may either be entered by simply typing in the drawing references, or by using the document register, where drawings are uploaded into Contract Controller and then indicated that they are being used to form the quotation. Now we can start building our quotation. Bill item descriptions and details can be manually entered by creating new bill items and adding the required description and details. If you have the schedule of works in a spreadsheet format, this may be imported into the quotation, ready to have all the elements added to each item. Once all the items are entered, if some of them are for subcontract work, you may then indicate which item is for which sub-trade. This will enable a schedule of required works for each sub-trade to be generated when creating invitation to tenders for the subcontractors. Sending out subcontract invitations to tender couldn't be any easier. By selecting the Subcontract Tenders tab, you then have the facility to locate and add the required subcontractors. Once entered, you can start to form the invitation to tender that will be sent to the subcontractor. Amend the preloaded drawing references that apply to this subtrade, indicating the contract period, and also stating when you want the tender to be returned by. Getting the tender returned on time is always a gamble. You can then import a standard template for the remainder of the invitation to tender. On issuing the invitation to tender, you have various output options. Let's look at the PDF generated. This will be a nicely presented document with only the bill items that were indicated to the trade, printed on the schedule of works. This helps to keep things straightforward for the subcontractor. Creating the invitations to tenders for all the other subcontractors is even easier. We can now copy all of the details from the one previously generated to the next one, and so on. On receiving the costs back from the subcontractors, they may be added against each item of the bill in a subcontract comparison table. Once entered, a decision is made as to which subcontractor to use for the quotation, and these costs are then used in the quotation bill items. By double-clicking on the uncompleted bill item, we can see the subcontractor used, and their cost is now automatically entered into the bill item. If no other costs are to be added, we can then decide to complete the item, with the option to add the markup when we complete the quotation. If we need to add additional cost to an item, this is easily done by selecting the required element and adding the required cost. Here we have decided to add additional site labor to assist the electrician. By going to the summary screen of the item, we can see all the elements added together, showing us the total cost of the item. Along with the previous item, we decide to complete this at cost, with the option to add the markup when we complete the quotation. We now want to add some additional items to the bill. Firstly, we want to add a stud partition wall between the sales and back of house areas. By using the library with pre-priced items, this is easily done. Double-clicking on an item will show you how it has already been costed. After selecting this library item, it is added to the bill item. You will see that the description is automatically entered, allowing you to amend it as required for this instance. We then tell the system the quantity required for this item. Having entered more items, and positioned them where we want them to feature in the bill, we have the option to use a takeoff facility to help with calculating the total meter squared of an item required. This may also be amended at any time. When generating bespoke items, we can either start from scratch, or we can use an item previously created as a template, and then amend as required. We can search for any item in the system, regardless of what quotation it has been used in, or if it has been created as a generic item. Once selected, You may make an exact copy of the item to a new, unique code for the quotation that you are working on. This may then be amended as required, without altering the original that it was copied from. Firstly, we must change the description of the newly created item to suit the requirement for this quotation. Then any amount of amendments or additions may be made to the various elements making up the item. While we see some amendments being made, I will explain that the system will always keep the material and labor prices for current bill items constantly up to date with those in the core library. If the estimating cost of a material has been changed, then this will be reflected in the item. Obviously, items that have been locked with past quotations will not be affected, but if the quotation were to be revised, with a duplicate copy to a revised number, the bill items would automatically have their cost updated to the current core library, and it is up to the estimator whether these costs are passed on to the client. You will see that we already have an included item for a square meter rate for polishing, which will have been costed with materials and labor. Now, we are going to add a pedestal unit to the reception desk. As you can see, this has also been costed with material and labor elements. Although this item will be displayed as a single entry in the reception counter unit, the system knows that materials and labor required for it, and this will be used in any material or labor analysis that are generated for the quotation. We now tell the system where we want this item to be placed in the bill schedule. At any point, we have the facility to perform a collated material analysis from all of the bill items. Similarly, we can do the same for a labor analysis. Preliminaries are entered manually or by using items selected from a template. Each preliminary may have a different markup added, rather than a global percentage. Heading back to the quotation summary page, the system will verify all material and labor costs are up to date, and will split out all of the material and labor elements, allowing you to add the required markup percentages. This will be added by default, but may be amended as required. Along with any bill items that have already had the margins added, the system will calculate the total quotation figure to be given to the client. You will also see the profitability of the quotation from the costs and markups added to them. We can preview the client bill to see what prices the client will see against each bill item. Also, there is a facility to add a percentage to allow a main contractor's discount to be applied, without affecting the profitability of the quotation. Once happy with all the figures, we can then issue the quotation. On confirming the completion, we are given the option to form a file copy. Along with the option to set the system to remind someone to chase up the success of the quotation at a given later date, we are able to form a client copy. This will be professionally presented, showing your company logos, headers, and footers. Any clarifications are printed, and then the bill schedule with items grouped and subtotaled, as per their entered headings and bill references. The last page will detail your company terms and conditions. This quotation document may be printed or formed as a PDF. So, there we have a very brief overview of preparing a quotation from start to finish. The system will automatically indicate that a quote has been submitted to the client, and will also add this into the call log. Quotations are easily revised, and as many revisions may be done as required. All submitted quotes are listed, and may be viewed in detail. A previously submitted quotation may also be set as the current quote for a contract, to be made against, if required. Thank you for taking the time to look at this presentation. Please do get in touch, and we will be happy to show you more in greater detail.